What is going on, guys? Welcome to another video with your host, as always, K-Mac time. And go ahead and smash that like button, and let's jump into today's video about some of my favorite all-time video games. Of course, growing up a giant fan of Nickelodeon cartoons and the series and the characters, I of course played a lot of Nickelodeon video games, and today I wanted to take a look at 10 of my personal favorite Nickelodeon video games, ones that I think stood out above the rest. There's been tons and tons and tons of these, dozens and dozens of them, expanding back all the way to like the Sega Genesis days and before. So a lot to get through, guys. So let's jump right in with number 10 on my list, which is actually a recent game. It just came out this past month or so in 2018. It's called Nick Cartoon Racers, and it's pretty dope. It's actually on Xbox One, PS4, and Switch, and I thought this was a pretty solid little racing game here. Of course, it's going to get compared to other popular kart racing games such as Mario Kart, and it's nowhere near as good as Mario Kart. I'm not saying it is, but it is good for what it is. Like, what I'll say is it's a pretty good co-op here. Like I said, it's released just a month or two ago. It's got a pretty decent little multiplayer for co-op and online. It includes characters from shows like Hey Arnold, Spongebob, the Rugrats, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's a cheaper budget title, so it's only $40 instead of Mario Kart being $60 if you're looking to pick it up on the Switch. Or, like I said, on Xbox One and PS4. A solid little racing title here. It's got a lot of good voice acting, got a little bit of quip in here, and it's actually a solid little kart racer, one that I could definitely recommend picking up.
Nickelodeon Kart Racers.
Next up is an all-time classic nostalgia trip for me, and that is Rugrats Search for Reptar on the PlayStation 1. And now this was released by THQ back in 1998, and THQ actually handled a lot, if not all, of the Nickelodeon licensed games from like the early 90s to like the late 2000s. And they're actually under contract, and they're trying to bring a bunch of these back into current generation systems. So fingers crossed if this one makes the list of the HD remasters they're going to be putting out sometime in the near future. But this one, again, is just a super simple action platformer. It featured the full actual voice cast of the show. It had this really iconic, to me, it's like always been stuck in my head. It's like this goose chase scene early in the game where you try and chase down this goose to get your grandfather's teeth back. Like I said, it's a classic nostalgia trip. It doesn't really hold up graphically or gameplay wise, but that's okay for me. This one is still lots of fun because I just remember playing this on Saturday mornings after I watched my cartoons and had my cereal. I would pop this to my PS1 and I would get as far as I could. I didn't have a memory card at the time, and I would try and beat the whole thing in one sitting. And this game has a lot of nostalgic feels for me. That's why it makes my list at number 9. One of my favorite Nicktoons growing up was Rocket Power, so I was super stoked when I first heard that there was going to be a Rocket Power game coming out to the GameCube and the PS2, and that was, of course, Beach Bandits, and it's an above average game here. It's got a pretty wacky out there storyline with like these robots coming and taking over. I think the whole plot line is based around that all of the sand from the shores beach is gone, so they can't surf, something like that. So it's pretty out there, it's pretty crazy, but it's got a lot of skating. You can skate, you got your skateboard, your inline skates, and things like that, and you've got a scooter, I believe, and you can play as all 4 characters: Reggie, Sam, Otto, and Twister, and you have to save the beach and save the town from this big business with all these robots. It's kind of got like this action platforming thing going on with mixed in with kind of like a Tony Hawk element in it. The storyline is kind of cheesy and hokey, but you come to expect that from a Nickelodeon game for children. But this one is not that bad, and I actually really enjoyed it as a kid growing up. Again, the nostalgia coming into a factor here, so that's why it makes my spot at number 8. The Fairly Odd Parents, again, one of my all-time favorite shows growing up. I actually got to meet the creator of the series, Butch Hartman, in person. Check out his YouTube channel as well. But I loved this game growing up because of the actual voice acting in this game, and the dialogue in this game is hilarious. Yes, it's a platforming game. The gameplay is actually above average. This game is also available on the GameCube and the PS2. It was planned to come out on the original Xbox, but was for whatever reason canceled, probably because the Xbox was kind of lagging behind in sales compared to those two at the time. And it was released in November of 2004. Anyway, the gameplay is solid for the time. It doesn't really hold up by today's standard, but like I said, the dialogue in this game is what really makes it stand out and shine. It's got really funny moments with Cosmo and Wanda. It's got some pretty good humor built into the gameplay, and one that has, again, a nostalgia feeling for me personally, and that's why it comes in at number 7 on today's list.
2 stars! That's 1 each, except for Wanda.
Another above average SpongeBob game is 2009 Nine's Spongebob's Truth or Square, which is a game based off of the SpongeBob episode with the same title, and it was actually released on SpongeBob's 10th anniversary in 2009. The plot line here is okay. The gameplay is above average in my opinion. You can actually pick this one up on the Wii, the Xbox 360, the PSP, and the DS. I personally think that the Xbox 360 version is the one that is obviously the best. The Wii version has motion controls. I'm not a huge fan of that. And the handheld versions actually cut out a lot of the plot line in order to be fit onto a cartridge. So I think the way to play this one is on the Xbox 360, obviously. It's actually a pretty cool game here. Another game that might come back, it's a THQ game. They might bring this one back when they're bringing back their HD collection. I would not be surprised to see this one be featured on it. A solid little platforming game here. Everything you come to expect from the voice cast of a SpongeBob game. Lots of good acting here, lots of good dialogue, lots of funny moments built right into it. A solid little title that I would recommend picking up and playing on the Xbox 360.
I hope I don't forget how to move.
Another Nickelodeon game that didn't get a lot of love when it first came out, it was kind of panned by critics and fans, but I actually really enjoyed, was the Legend of Korra game, which was released on the PS4, PS3, Xbox One, and Xbox 360 back in 2014 by Platinum Games, one of my all-time favorite developers. They make really high-quality games. This one was a little bit below their standards in terms of what it reviewed as and what it is, but still, to me, anything that has to do with Legend of Korra and being by Platinum Games, you can sign me up for it. There's a lot of awesomeness there between that and the developer. Anyway, the game is actually a third-person action beat-em-up slash platformer game here. It handles kind of like a Bayonetta, but a kind of dumbed-down battle system here, not quite as in-depth and badass as Bayonetta, but still not awful. Unfortunately, this game was actually taken off of all digital sale marketplaces in December of 2017, so you can unfortunately not purchase this game. That's another thing I don't like about digital media only. It's when they're taken off the storefronts, unless you downloaded it, it's gone forever. There's no way to get this game. Now, yes, you can torrent this online and play it on your PC potentially, but it's never quite the same. And it's kind of sad because I actually really enjoyed this game, and I had it on an older hard drive on my 360, which I have since misplaced, so there's no way for me to go back and play it anymore, which kind of sucks. But if you have it, you can find it, play it. It's pretty decent.
Hello? Sir? Are you all right?
Growing up, my older brother had a Sega Genesis when I was a kid, and one of the games that I used to love playing is a little action platformer game called Ren and Stimpy's Invention. Now, this, of course, is actually a Nickelodeon branded game released in 1993, developed by Blue Sky Software, and it's a solid platformer. It's actually got great visuals for the time. The side-scrolling on it is actually really good. I enjoyed this game a lot, and in terms of early Nickelodeon games, this is probably one of the best there is. There's other ones out there. There's a couple other Ren and Stimpy games that I know of. There's actually a Guts game on the Super Nintendo and a few others that I know of from this era. But for me, this is the one from that era that really sticks out above the rest. It's a solid platforming game here. It's got lots of humor. It's got lots of action, stuff like that. So if you're looking for an old school Nickelodeon game to play, then I highly recommend giving this one a shot. Next up is a complete utter hidden gem here on a Danny Phantom game here. This is called Danny Phantom Urban Jungle, and it came out on the GBA and the Nintendo DS. I highly recommend the DS version over the GBA version. It's just a lot better visually and plays better. There's actually versions of this game planned to be released for the PS2, PS3, PSP, original Xbox, Xbox 360, Nintendo GameCube, and the Nintendo Wii, all of which were inconspicuously canceled and never really given a reason for. But the versions we did get on the DS and on the Game Boy Advance are actually really, really solid. I actually love these games a lot. They reviewed in the mid-range, but to me they're pretty decent, mostly because I like these characters, I like the gameplay, and again, the DS version is solid. Now, it's like a side-scrolling beat-em-up kind of fighter game with these characters, and I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite DS games I remember playing back as a kid. I was a huge fan of this one. And if you guys can come across this game, it's kind of a semi-obscure game. You don't see it very often. But if you do come across it, I highly recommend picking it up, giving it a play. It's not a very expensive game or anything like that, but it's definitely one you guys should check out if you're a fan of any of the THQ early Nickelodeon games. A Nickelodeon series that kind of gets overlooked and kind of forgotten these days is Tak and the Power of Juju, and they had 3 of these games back on the GameCube, Xbox, and PS2, my favorite of which being the second, Tak 2, The Staff of Dreams. I loved this game on the GameCube growing up, and it's just an all-around solid game here. Again, an action-adventures type of platform game here, but it's very story-driven. It stays true to the cartoons, if you're ever a fan of that like I was. It does a very good job of that. Again, very good voice acting. The visuals here hold up. It's just an overall solid game. It was actually available on the PlayStation Network on the PS3 until 2013. It was removed from the storefront, unfortunately. But again, another game that THQ might bring back in their HD collection later in, sometime in the future. I would love to see this series, brought some new life back into it. Hopefully we see more from this. I absolutely love these type of games, and it's one that I had a lot of fun growing up on. Again, that's why it comes in at my number runner-up spot here because of all the nostalgia I had for this one.
It to help us. There, Tack. That's the tiki you need.
And coming in at my number one spot, you probably saw this coming from a mile away, and that is, of course, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom, which was released in 2003. It was developed by Heavy Iron Studios, and it was released on the PS2, the original Xbox, the GameCube, and the Game Boy Advance. Of course, the Game Boy Advance version is much different and dumbed down, watered down compared to the console version, so I would recommend playing either the Xbox, the GameCube, or the PS2 versions, as they are the superior versions, and they are amazing. This, of course, is an action-adventure platforming collectathon game, kind of similar to like a Banjo-Kazooie type thing where you go around and collect all these type of things, doing some platforming, but there's also a story driven behind it. It's semi-linear, and it's got just some hilarious moments. It's got all kinds of great action going on. There's all kinds of like side missions you can do. There's different sections where you use like your snowboarding on your tongue. There's a driving mission, things like that. This game is absolutely loaded to the gills with fun and interesting things to do and see, and it really brings the Bikini Bottom life to life, and I really enjoyed this game growing up. It's one of my favorite games of my childhood. I played the absolute hell out of this game as a kid. I probably beat it a dozen times growing up, if not more. And it's still a game I can find myself going back, popping in the GameCube and playing for a few hours just to get that old nostalgia feeling. I love these old nostalgia feelings you get from going back and playing some of these games you may have played as a kid growing up, and this is one of my all-time favorites. But anyway, that's all I have for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to smash that like button, share this video with other Nickelodeon and gaming fans. Make sure you guys are subscribed for more videos like this in your sub boxes daily. But until next time, guys, remember that it's always KMAC time somewhere. Until then, take it easy, guys, and peace out.